Am I the a-hole for blocking an Airbnb's view of my home? I've already posted this asking for legal advice but thought I'd ask for moral advice too. Last year we bought a historical property, with a fair-sized chunk of land. The previous owners had ran it as a small hotel but couldn't keep up with the pace at their age anymore. We turned the property back into a private residence. A main country road runs right by the longest edge of the unfenced garden, so we decided to plant hedges for privacy and to block off access in case my nephews visit and play football, etc. There is a small gardener's cottage right at the edge of this line, which was sold separately when we bought our home. We made sure to keep any bushes between us and them on our side of the property line. We were unaware that the elderly couple had sold the cottage to a relative of theirs and that he had planned to turn it into an Airbnb. We only know this now as after a summer of growth the owner had finally noticed the small hedge and realized what we'd done. He, and the couple, have sent official-looking letters stating we're impeding their reasonable enjoyment of the property as they had planned to market the cottage as part of the property with views of a historical landmark, and once our hedge is full height that view will be greatly diminished if not almost entirely gone. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to help my so with our twins? We have 4 kids together in total ages 6, 4, 1, 1. For context, I have always been vocal about not wanting more than 2 kids. Our firstborn is a boy and secondborn is a girl, so I was happy to have one of each. I am the sole breadwinner as daycare costs would not make it worth it for her to work as well. After our second child I told her I was done and wanted to have a vasectomy. She was against that and wanted to have a third. We fought about this for months. I didn't want to get it done against her will. Her reason for wanting another was that she always wanted a bigger family. My reason against was that I felt that she had a hard time keeping up with daily tasks with only 2 kids. I also spoke to her at length about how another child would be financially unsustainable since I have 2 jobs and am barely making ends meet, not to mention that I too am exhausted all the time. Anyway, before we could reach a conclusion she fell pregnant. She was on the pill and according to her, barely ever missed a day. We now have a total of 4 beautiful children that I love, but I cannot bring myself to giving her the extra help for the twins. We now are stressed and fight all the time. I sometimes want to help her with the twins but it gets me so discouraged to see everything I warned her against come to pass. I know they are my children too, but it is not fair to get yourself in a situation when everyone is advising you against it. Then ask for help when the shit hits the fan. Now when I come home from work, I help just as much as I used to with our first 2 children, nothing more nothing less. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister wear our late mom's necklace on her wedding day? Sister, 22F, and I, 26F, lost our mom 20 years ago. Mom had a lot of jewelry and she had it in her will that we would each get specific pieces of it. Dad remarried a year later to Jane. My sister considers Jane her mom and Jane's daughter Nora, 23F, her sister. Due to her feeling like they were just mom and sister and not step, my sister has given away all the jewelry she got from mom to Jane and Nora. I always refused to let them borrow pieces from me. Jane always rubbed me the wrong way because she said my mom was not my sister's mom anymore and she was basically a stand-in until her real mom, her/Jane, could come into my sister's life. She said it was disgusting that I would think it a bad thing for my sister to share pretty jewelry with no real meaning with her family. She said I was the one who was rejecting a mom and sister. My sister has nothing left from what mom left her. When she was graduating high school she was upset about not having anything to wear, so it appeared, and she asked if she could borrow a bracelet mom left me. I was like sure, just give it back after. But my sister gave it to Jane after and it took months for me to get it back. I told Jane I would escalate the situation if I didn't. Everyone, meaning Dad, my sister, Jane and Nora, thought I was shitty for that. Now the necklace has become an issue. It was mom's favorite piece of jewelry and I have always worn it. I wore it on my wedding day. My sister is aware that it was mom's favorite and she has seen photos of her wearing it. She wanted to borrow it to wear on her wedding day. I was like no fucking way. I told her I had made it clear after the graduation incident that she was never borrowing another piece off me again, and I told her that if she wants something of mom's to wear, she should take back the stuff she gave away. My sister lost it with me and started yelling that I have always held it against her that she didn't hold mom on a pedestal and reject everyone who came into our lives after. She said I had no right to throw that stuff in her face. I didn't, and that she should be allowed to wear something of mom's to her wedding just like I did when I got married. She broke down and told me I was selfish and awful and I took pleasure in doing this to her and I sucked and had ruined her wedding. Am I the a-hole for taking back a shawl my wife made for a bride-to-be after she was uninvited from the wedding? My wife, Lena, crochets a lot and often gifts it to friends and family. When her second oldest brother got married, she made the bride a shawl to wear over her dress in the evening. The bride loved it and ever since Lena has made shawls for everyone in her family getting married. Now Lena's oldest brother, George, is getting married again. Lena doesn't have a relationship with George as he was abusive to her as a child, but if she has to see him then she is polite but distant with him. She doesn't want to cut off the rest of her family because of George. I work with George and while we aren't friends, we are friendly at work. Lena encouraged this. When George got moved to my team I was going to request a transfer, not wanting to expose Lena to George, as my team do a lot of get-togethers with our significant others. As it is a family wedding, Lena's mom asked her if she could crochet a shawl for George's fiancée and Lena agreed. It was arranged that once it was finished I would take it to work to give to George so that Lena didn't have to see him. Earlier this week, the shawl was completed and I emailed George at work to let him know that I would bring it in today as the wedding is tomorrow. When I got into work this morning, I gave George the shawl and let him know that Lena and I were looking forward to the wedding. Come lunchtime, Lena called me to let me know that George's fiancée had called her and told her that she was no longer invited to the wedding, citing the place they are having the wedding and the reception it is too small for the number they have coming, so are having to make cutbacks. However, I was still invited to the wedding. I was mad at this because they clearly only invited Lena to get a shawl, which to me is just rude. If they had asked Lena outright to make one, she probably would have done because she loves to crochet. On my way out of work, I noticed George wasn't at his desk but the shawl was. I was still mad that they had used Lena to get a shawl and I just shoved it in my work bag. I left a note on his desk telling George since Lena was no longer invited, the shawl and I would no longer be attending either. On my way home, I told Lena what I had done and asked her if she wanted to go out instead, so not to waste having a sitter. Lena was upset that I had taken the shawl as it was causing an uproar in her family group chat where people were calling her petty because I took it back. Lena wants me to give it back. I don't think I should, they don't deserve Lena's kindness. However, at the same time, I don't want Lena to be upset with me over George and a shawl. Am I the a-hole for not disclosing to my daughter she wasn't breastfed? Pretty much the title. I, 45F, and my pregnant daughter, 23F, were discussing the upcoming baby. She asked me how hard breastfeeding was and I told her I never did. She asked why and I told her the only two people I knew who breastfed complained about it constantly and it didn't seem worth the hassle, especially since her dad left me and I had to go back to work 7 weeks after she was born, and I only got an extra week because week 6 was Christmas week. She was upset and accused me of hiding this from her. I said it never came up. So she's all mad and has a call into to her doctor to see if she is at a disadvantage because of this, and I should have disclosed the facts before she got pregnant so she knew she was malnourished. She was never malnourished. She hit all her landmarks in infancy, was very healthy. I think she is being ridiculous and she thinks I'm a total asshole.